Sorry seems to be the hardest word, as the song goes. And for many men, that couldn't be more true. Because apologizing doesn't come naturally to most men. And if you're watching this video, you're probably one of the toughest spots of your entire life. And that's facing separation or divorce from your wife or partner. The emotional distance has grown. And so you're probably here wondering if there's any way to fix it. Now, I do have a little bit of good news for you, which is that it's not too late. Okay, your marriage isn't beyond repair, because it starts with you. And the key to turning things around is to use a sincere, heartfelt apology. Now, this isn't just about saying sorry. It's about showing your wife that you really understand the hurt you may have caused her and demonstrating your commitment to make things right. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly how to do that. I'm going to show you how to craft an apology that opens the door again. It starts to rebuild trust and set the stage for the real changes that she probably wants to see from you. Now, before I start, if you haven't seen part 1 of this series yet, make sure to check it out, because it's all about taking responsibility for your actions as the first step for saving your relationship, and you'll find the details in the links below. So having said that, let's dive into part 2, which is the power of a heartfelt, genuine apology. So why do men struggle with apologizing? This often stems from deep-rooted beliefs about masculinity and vulnerability. You know, a real man will just forge on, kick the door down and move on. But the problem is that in that situation, your apology can feel like you're admitting that you're weak or you're a failure. And for some men, it threatens their sense of self as a provider or protector. So let me look at 3 examples of this. Let's take scenario 1. That's called the dismissive response. Imagine a situation where your wife has just really expressed how hurt she is, but your initial reaction is to kind of minimize how she's feeling or dismiss it and say, oh, you're overreacting. You know, it wasn't that bad. Now, in fact, that isn't an apology at all. It's a defense mechanism. That's reinforcing the idea that you're admitting fault makes you weak. Now, a second story is what I call the but apology. Very common. A common trap is to say, oh, I'm sorry, but you also did X, Y, Z. Okay, that's not a genuine apology, guys. It's shifting blame back onto your wife and undermining the sincerity of how you really feel. Okay, your fault, okay, your apology is entirely isolated from any other steps that she may have taken to upset you. So you have to make sure you keep that contained and you don't dump it over the fence. And say scenario 3, that's the silent treatment. This is very common with men. Again, avoiding a conversation, avoiding the whole situation is another way men avoid apologizing. There's a belief that their silence is a show of strength, but that's actually communicating dismissiveness of your wife's feelings and really that you don't care. The goal is to rebuild and strengthen your relationship, and it's showing her that you really care and you're committed to grow your emotional intelligence. So how can you use an apology to save your marriage? Again, apology isn't just about saying sorry, it's about understanding and the impact you may have caused by your actions. Now, I hammer on with clients about this because when you do sincerely apologize, you're telling her, I understand and I see the pain I've caused you, and I'm taking full responsibility for it. It's not rushing past the hurt. You know, you can't just brush it off and say, oh, I'm sorry, let's move on. You have to acknowledge it and show that you're really committed to healing and changing, because without this step, rebuilding trust is virtually impossible. If you've hurt her deeply, just don't offer a quick, half-hearted apology. Like I said, you need to really take your time. And that's something that leads on to avoiding common apology mistakes. It's an overlap there. Okay, again, phrases that sabotage and destroy your apology are things like, I'm sorry, but you did X, Y, Z, or I'm sorry if you were hurt. Those aren't apologies, guys, they're excuses. And here's why. Because if you say, oh, I'm sorry, but, you're handing the blame back onto her. And if you say, I'm sorry if you were hurt, so that's kind of deflecting responsibility, and it's really, you're not owning up. You're kind of saying, well, it's your sensitivity, it's not what I did. That's not going to cut it. So let me give you an example. Say if you've not been paying attention, you've kind of been a bit distant with your wife, and she takes the courage to confront you about it. You might be tempted to be defensive and say, well, I'm sorry you're distant, but you're asking a bit much of me. I'm really occupied with work. Now, that kind of response is shifting the blame squarely back onto her shoulders instead of acknowledging the impact that your actions have had on her. Right? So don't make excuses. If you've hurt her, you've hurt her. If you want to find a route back, you have to take personal responsibility. That is what I call manning up. Okay? Don't like that phrase, but in terms of apologies, a man has to be vulnerable. You actually are way stronger emotionally if you can actually acknowledge what you've done. So how do you frame an apology so your wife will start to believe you? So I'm going to share with you a 4-step formula that I use with my clients that can help you craft an apology to communicate that sincerity and start to build her trust again. So again, hammer home the point 1, acknowledge your mistake. State by clearly stating what you did wrong. Be very specific. That will show that you're taking responsibility for your actions. For example, I'm sorry for shutting you out last week when you needed to talk to me. You name the issue, okay? You shut her out. You didn't listen to her. So once you name the issue, you're showing that you understand what happened and that you're not brushing it under the rug. Which leads on to the second step, which is expressing understanding. Having empathy for a situation is key to a meaningful apology. Take a moment to acknowledge the emotional impact that your actions have had on her. It's not just showing that you're focused on fixing things quickly. You truly are taking the time to understand her perspective. If she feels seen, she'll be more trusting. For example, you can say, I realize that I made you feel alone and unimportant. That's not how I want you to feel. Go be bold, ask her what she's feeling and what you can do to help her through it because you're genuinely sorry. If you make her feel seen, she'd be more likely to trust you in your apology and trust that you're looking to make changes because you're seeing and you're showing empathy. Again, point 3, take full responsibility, don't deflect. No sorry but, no sorry if. Okay, don't dilute your apology with that. It will just make her feel invalidated. Own your actions and the harm that they've caused her. Okay, take full responsibility. And point 4, which she's going to want to see from you, is to commit to change. Okay, end your apology with a specific promise of what you're going to change, showing that you're really committed to your personal growth and making sure that you won't make the same mistake again. Let me give you an example of how that might happen in real life. Going back to being dismissive or shutting out, say, I'm sorry for shutting you out and not listening when you needed me. I know that made you feel really alone and unimportant. I never want you to feel that way. I take full responsibility for not prioritizing our connection, and I'm committing to going to a coach or a counselor so I can learn to be a better communicator. Now, who wouldn't want to hear that? Okay, you're going the whole hog and saying, I acknowledge the mistake, I see how it made you feel, and this is what I'm going to do to change things. It works because it's not rushed, it's not vague, it's not defensive, it's clear, you've got empathy there, it offers a really tangible plan for change. And it's saying, I'm not just apologizing, I'm going to actively work on making this right. Okay, so if you need help with apologizing, reach out in the comments and I'll give you whatever advice I can give you over YouTube, or reach out to me and I can help you with your communication system. Now, you've got the apology nailed. You know that she's starting to trust you. But if you choose the wrong moments, that can make the whole thing fall apart. Okay? The way and timing and delivery of your apology can either strengthen it or break it. Because even the most sincere apology will lose its impact if you deliver it at the wrong time or in the wrong way. And the timing and delivery of an apology are as important as the actual words you use. You need to choose the right moment. An apology should never feel forced or rushed. If you're in the heat of the argument, you may have reached out, you're starting to get into the problems that you've had. Just wait and hear exactly what she's complaining of you. Okay, wait for a time when the emotions have settled down and she seems quite open to listening. Because if you apologize in the heat of an argument or a kind of raised emotional discussion, or when she's visibly upset, that could backfire. She probably won't be ready to fully process what you're saying. If an argument has just ended, give some time and space to calm down before approaching her with the apology. If necessary, say, well, look, I'm looking for the right words to use. I will come back to you. Just give me some time so I can actually say what I want to say without upsetting you more. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. As long as you reassure her that you're not just walking away and shutting it down, that will work for you. So as for delivery, don't rush the process. Okay. Take your time both in delivering the apology and giving her time to respond to it. Give her the space to fully hear and process your words. For example, if, you may get impatient and just say, oh, I said I'm sorry, can we just move on now? You better not say that. You need to say, I want to take a moment to really address this because it's important to me. Okay, and if you hear my apology, I'd love to hear what you feel I can improve on. Slow down. Be patient. Because if you do that, you're showing that you value her feelings enough, and most importantly, the relationship enough to take your time. Now, some of you are probably saying, I've tried to apologize and I've done it in all sorts of ways and she won't accept it. Well, again, we're coming back to patience. Yes, it's possible, especially if you've got a history of just being impatient or just not even apologizing. She's going to take a while to really, process it and may not want to believe it and is showing resistance. Your most heartfelt apology might not lead to your immediate forgiveness. All right. And this is where you've got to stay strong. Healing takes time, especially if trust has been damaged by either person. So I always say to my clients, look, expect resistance. Okay, if you're suddenly apologizing in the right way for the first time, your wife might still be upset or even reluctant to accept your apology. She doesn't think it's that you've really changed. She thinks there's manipulation, even if you're being sincere. And that's a perfectly normal response if someone's hurt. You can't take it personally. Don't be defensive about it. Okay, the process is really one where you have to give that time for it to soak in. Right? Don't feel rejected immediately. It's going to take some time. And that leads on to really respecting her space. If she needs that time to process your emotions and your apology, give her that space. Don't pressure her to forgive you on your timeline. Okay, you can say in a real life scenario, okay, let's throw this out there. She's still upset after you've given a really wonderful apology, covering all of those factors. You've seen what's caused the upset, you've been open about it, and you're saying, okay, do you forgive me? Don't say, why are you still angry? I said, I'm sorry. You're better to say, I understand you're still upset and I'm going to give you all the time you need. All right? I'm committed to showing you through my actions that I really mean what I said. And that really is the reassurance. Your actions will speak louder than words. If you're saying, listen, I'm committing to go and see a coach once a week because I need to improve my communication, then you've got to be consistent and really that you're sure that you're serious about making those changes. Over-communicate if you have to, of all the steps you're taking to follow up on the promises you have made following your apology. And if need be, ask her for help, how you can improve the way that you communicate with her. Don't have an ego about it. Say to her, you're open to learning from her. Don't let your ego get in the way. Because if you're consistent, you will rebuild her trust. So what can we take away from today? Well, what I hope you've learned is that heartfelt apology is one of the most powerful tools you'll ever have to rebuild trust in your marriage. And it takes practice. The importance of that is it shows you are taking responsibility, you're avoiding excuses, and you're committing to change and improve yourself. You need to do that without her. Okay, and if you show that you're doing that without her, she'll start to believe that you want to include her in the next step in your journey. It takes time and patience and consistent effort. And so in the next video in this series, I'm going to dive into how you can avoid being defensive when she brings up past issues and how to truly actively listen to her. They're skills which are really essential to understanding and healing, because once you've apologized, you may well expect that she's going to bring up the issue again, and you mustn't be defensive. All right. Now, I want you to take away and have a think about the last time you really gave an apology. Think about how you could approach it differently next time, given what you've learned today. And I'd love you to share those comments below and let's have a discussion. Now, if you're ready for more, you need a deeper dive, don't hesitate to reach out and comment below. Don't miss the next part of the Save Your Marriage series, again on defensiveness. Click below to subscribe, like and share so you don't miss a thing. And I will see you in the next video.